I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought he,
There you go.
let's try this again. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of April 7th, 2015. We will have invocation by Pastor Jared Olson. Is Pastor Olson here? Okay. Not seeing Pastor Olson here. Will you please stand and join me in a moment of silence? We would like to remember at this time Commissioner Smith's father who passed away, and Commissioner Smith will not be with us, so let's please remember his family today. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Morning.
We have two changes. Under proclamations, item number 20, Neil Spiritus Day, April 7th, 2015. Request to adopt proclamation designating April 7th, 2015 as Neil Spiritus Day in Manatee County, Florida. We also have in financial services, item number 11, budget amendment, a scrivener's error. And the batch number should read, for item number 10, batch number DU 33115A. Thank you. Those are proposed changes today.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and then move right into our introduction. We're going to have an introduction of Beth Lewis, the Animal Services Shelter Supervisor. Staff, please come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Hutchison, Interim Director of Animal Services. It took a long time to get to this day, but I am extremely proud to introduce you to Ms. Beth Lewis, our new shelter manager. Beth comes to us with a distinguished career in animal services, and instead of stealing her thunder, I'm going to let her tell you about herself. Beth?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, welcome.
As you heard, I'm shelter supervisor at Manatee County. Very pleased to be here. My career began in Austin, Texas. Spent probably between 8.5 to 9 years. I started as a kennel cleaner, and I quickly moved up. I took in everything that everyone had to offer me. I enjoy specializing in behavior issues with animals with minor behavior issues. I learned a lot from Austin Pets Alive. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that organization. A lot of great trainers. I quickly moved up in the organization because I believed in the organization I worked for, and I believe in helping the animals. I want to bring that dedication here, and I will. I have a lot of support, and I see a lot of support from y'all and from the community. And thank you so much for letting me be here.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair. Beth, I just want to welcome you. You're a long time coming. You have the history of the no-kill from Austin, which is kind of where we heard about this, where the successes that they had, and we were the first in Florida, but I think they were one of the very few that were the first in the country. Then she came to Florida and went to Tampa, and we stole her. So congratulations, and I've already heard through social media and emails that you have the respect from a lot of the rescues, so welcome.
All right, let's move on to awards, presentations, proclamations. Our first award is Employee of the Month, Tina Smith. Staff, please come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. Madam Chair, I'm Heather Dildine, Financial Services Manager at the utility. We are honored this month to have Tina Smith, an 8-year employee with the utility, to be nominated and selected for Employee of the Month. I'm going to turn it over to Gwen DeTone. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Tina Smith has been a part of our customer service family since 2007. In 2014, Tina was promoted to the customer service supervisor, which requires her to oversee the fluid operation of an efficient cashiering and call center area. Over the past 8 years, Tina has embraced the ACE philosophy. She continually implements core county values as she provides an outstanding model of accountability, civility, and ethics in her daily interactions with both colleagues and customers. I am very proud to have Tina as a part of our team. Congratulations, Tina. I would like to introduce Dana Catlett, the Assistant Manager in Customer Service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm truly honored to be standing here this morning as we all take a moment to acknowledge Tina. She is an outstanding employee. She demonstrates a positive attitude in all facets of her role as a customer service supervisor. Tina is a dedicated and hardworking employee. She has always taken the initiative. When I ask Tina, could you look into this, or ask her, maybe we need to do something like this, her response is always, I'm already working on it, or it's already completed. Tina provides more than support in her area of service. She contributes to customer service by looking for ways to simplify or create efficiency so that we may better serve our customers. I am fortunate to have the opportunity to sit with Tina in the same office, and I get to hear her address varying needs or concerns of a diverse range of customers. Customer service takes a special person who can listen openly, empathize, and make decisions that are both good for the customers and Manatee County. Tina demonstrates the knowledge in her area of service, which is evident in her interactions with colleagues and customers alike. She strives for excellence when faced with difficult decisions. She seeks to understand fully or collaborate to create just solutions. Among the many contributions of Tina Smith, an additional attribute I wish to mention is her flexibility. She's able to fill in for any position in times of need and completes tasks with efficiency. She continually models a positive attitude which encourages and uplifts everyone she encounters. I am very grateful to have an opportunity to work alongside such a dedicated individual. Tina Smith is truly an asset to Manatee County. Congratulations, Tina.
Yay.
All my coworkers who wrote in such nice things about me. I am honored to be chosen as April's Employee of the Month. I'm sorry.
Okay, take a breath.
I am honored to work for such a great establishment and with a bunch of great co-workers. I am looking forward to working for Manatee County until I am able to retire. Thank you all very much.
Yay. Okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Good job.
And now we move on to retirement awards. Paul Riggs.
Yeah, Paul. Sorry, you gotta come.
Good morning, Chad Budso, Public Works. It is a happy day and a sad day as we approach another retirement of a lifelong employee. Paul, he's been with us for a very long time. He was working with North County when I moved down here from up north, and he's another one of these guys that understands and takes in a greenhorn like me, if you will, and it's a nice time when you can always send someone off into retirement and also count them as a friend. So I'm not going to take any more of Danny or Lana's thunder, but one more time for Paul, and Danny Smith is going to have some more words to say.
Good morning, Danny Smith, Public Works. I've had the pleasure of working with Paul for 3 years. Paul has worked for Manatee County for 36 years, Paul? 36 years. To put a little bit in perspective, I can remember Paul when I was a little kid. He was driving the road grader on the Shell Road that my family lived on. So
Goodness.
I've only worked with Paul 3 years, but I've seen his work for 36 years. Paul's a great guy. We're definitely going to miss him. He's a very knowledgeable employee. There's a lot of experience walking out the door with him that we're going to miss. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lana Guskowski. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Paul was born and raised on Terracea Island. He is third generation?
Fourth,
Too many to
fifth.
count, generation. They were there when the Indian mound was being built.
Probably.
Poor Paul. Pretty old.
You're telling me. He was a Marine stationed in Hawaii, I believe, and then he came back here, eventually marrying Nancy, and they have 3 wonderful children. He came to work for Manatee County, came to work for us, actually. He was operating a road grader in North County back when we used military surplus for most of our equipment. We built roads. He built Erie Road, Old Tampa Road, I think, several roads. When he's always been the man that you needed to get the things done. He and his crew are the ones that make your decisions come true. They do the work. He's always been a leader. When he would work hurricanes, all kinds of storm events. He was the first in-team leader until he became a supervisor in North County. Eventually, he and I both moved to Stormwater, where he took over the roadside ditch maintenance crew, and he's been there ever since. He, all my notes disappeared. He has always been there for whatever the county needed. He would work long hours. He would work after hours. He would do a great deal on his own with his own initiative. He also loves to fish and loves to golf. Anytime there's a party, he's the one that we ask to do. He catches all the fish and he cooks awesome fish. Golfing, he's
Terracea, what do you expect?
exactly. He is an avid golfer and quite good. Every time there's United Way golf game, everybody wants him on their team. So I'm wishing him all the best. He's going to be terribly missed, but I know he and Nancy have a great many things that they want to do, and I wish him all the luck.
Yeah, that's great.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to work for Manatee County for all these years. Like I say, I'm from here, and just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for all your service. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Enjoy that fishing and golfing. I know it's going to be fun. If that were time, you know you can still bring a fish around. You don't have to keep them to yourself.
That's what they tell me too.
Congratulations.
Good luck. Good luck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. But born and raised in Terracea.
Enjoy yourself. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to proclamations. Can I have a motion for approval of the proclamations?
To approve the proclamation.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Our first proclamation is National Public Health Week. Carol and whoever is here to accept the proclamation, come on down.
close, guys. We got a lot of people. There you go. Welcome. Whereas the week of April 6th through the 12th, 2015 is National Public Health Week and is the theme of the Healthiest Nation 2030. And whereas since 1995, the American Public Health Association, through its sponsorship of National Public Health Week, has educated the public, policymakers, and public health professionals about issues important to improving the public health. And whereas over the past 25 years, U.S. life expectancy has increased, but is at a slower rate than in other countries, and studies consistently show we have a lower life expectancy than comparable countries. And whereas there is a 16% difference in health status between the most healthy and least healthy states, and whereas even in the for-profit sector, companies are seeking a better balance between their profits and the health of their customers, and whereas public health action, together with scientific and technological advances, have played a major role in reducing and in some cases eliminating the spread of infectious disease and in establishing today's disease surveillance and control systems. And whereas while heart attack and stroke are still the nation's top killers, the public health community has helped achieve remarkable declines in death from both diseases since 1950. Deaths from cardiovascular disease has declined 60% and stroke rates have declined 70%. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Manatee County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that April 6th through the 12th, 2015 shall be known and designated and set aside as National Public Health Week in Manatee County, Florida, and call upon all the people of the county to observe this week by helping our families, friends, and neighbors, coworkers, and leaders better understand the values of public health and supporting great opportunities to adopt preventive lifestyle habits in light of this year's theme, Healthiest Nation 2030. Adopted with a quorum present and voted the 7th day of April 2015, approved by and signed by our Chair of the Board, Betsy Benak. And, you know, today we recently gave a presentation to somebody that worked at the health department, Dr. Voiles, a 92-year-old physician. We still have TB in Manatee County, and active TB, so it's wonderful to have this organization behind me to help control the spread of some of these diseases. So Dr. Bensi, congratulations, and thank you to everybody here.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This year marks the 125th anniversary of public health in Florida. While we honor our role within the State Department of Health, we know that public health at the local level is successful only due to community partnerships. And we thank you greatly for your ongoing support of our efforts. Today, my leadership team is here to briefly share with you their role in keeping the county healthy and safe.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Edwin Hernandez. I'm the Clinical Services Director. Whether you are a man, woman, a child, a teenager, the Health Department offers a variety of services to keep our mission statement of promoting and protecting our communities. We are committed to become the healthiest state in the nation by offering family planning services, laboratory services, school-based clinics, immunizations, sexually transmitted disease screenings, tuberculosis, breast and cervical early detection programs, refugee program, child physicals to keep our schools safe, and our latest addition to the list, our Teen Express to address pregnancy teen in our county, which we know has been a concern for a long time. Thank you. I would like to introduce members of my team, Dr. Banks, our medical director, and Jean Hashi, which is our school-based clinics director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. I am Dr. George Banks. I am one of the practicing clinical physicians at the at the Manatee County Health Department. and I also have the pleasure of serving as the medical director. Our goal, of course, is to prevent, and if that fails, to control disease processes throughout the county. And we will continue to do the best we can to preserve and to improve the health of the greater citizenry of Manatee County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Jean Hashi, School Health Services Program Supervisor. Our focus is to ensure that students arrive to school healthy and ready to learn. We focus on prevention of illness and the promotion of wellness. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Belford. I'm the Public Health Nutrition Supervisor for the WIC program of Manatee County, which stands for Women, Infants, and Children. We provide a special nutrition program for pregnant women, mothers, infants, and children up to 5 years old. What we provide is healthy foods, formula at no additional cost. We also provide breastfeeding classes as well as nutrition classes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair. I'm Tom Larkin, Environmental Manager with the Environmental Health section of the Health Department. Environmental health is that section of public health, or a branch of public health, which is designed to protect and prevent disease from an environmental nature. Examples of some of the activities and services that we provide for our citizens in Manatee County include biomedical waste monitoring and permitting, and sharps collection, sharps disposal within our health unit. We perform monitoring of our local beaches and over 1,000 of our public swimming pools to prevent disease from waterborne nature. We do rabies and foodborne illness investigations within environmental health. We do private well protection from groundwater contamination, and we do generalized health and sanitation inspections of many of our group care facilities within the county. There are many, many other services that we provide in the county, too numerous to count right now in this very short venue, but all of them are targeted to prevent disease and protect our citizens and visitors within Manatee County. Thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Natalie Wright. I'm in the Epidemiology Department at Florida Department of Health in Manatee County. And this is Carrie Harder, if you'd like to.
I'm a Director of Disease Control.
Here at the Epidemiology Department, we conduct surveillance and perform investigations on reportable infectious diseases and outbreaks. And we also provide education on disease transmission and prevention to the community and to public health partnerships and healthcare professionals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Diana Montemorano, and I am the Chief Deputy Registrar of the Vital Statistics Office. Our office issues birth certificates for the entire state of Florida back to 1930, and we also issued death certificates statewide back to 2009. I also monitor birthing facilities to make sure that records are filed within the time frame and no fraudulent birth certificates are filed. Also monitor local funeral homes for compliance. Our office also maintains application forms for all the other state offices as a courtesy to clients. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Luz Corcuera, Community Health Director, and I'm here with my team, well, some of them, my team members. I have good luck. You know, I have all the millennials on my team, so they do a wonderful job. Lisa Ann and Kathleen Ochipa. Our role is to create a community of wellness, working in partnership with the different community partners. And we are right now working on smoking cessation and also the Healthiest Weight Initiative. As you know, we have some trends that we need to reverse in the county. So we are counting on your support as decision makers to make our job possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Adam Dubois, and I work in the Office of Public Health Preparedness at the Health Department. The role of our program is to prepare for, respond to, and mitigate against public health emergencies. We also participate in special needs sheltering of the residents. epidemiological outbreaks, environmental health emergencies, and I'm also part of the public information team.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Martha Leal,
John Perez.
and we work in the HIV prevention and awareness program. We do a lot of community outreach. We are the ones that go in the bus all through the community, along with the community partners, to offer free HIV testing and pre and post counseling. And we also focus on prevention.
Great, thank you.
Good morning. Last but not least, my name is Eddie Rodriguez, and I'm the Assistant Director at the Manatee County Health Department. I oversee the Administrative Services Division and Clinical Operations. The Administrative Services Division consists of Human Resources, Information Technology, Facilities, and Finance and Accounting. With me today, I have Lois Fletcher, who's our Human Resource Manager, and Tammy Halstead, who is our Finance and Accounting Director. Together, we ensure that our agency is working efficiently and effectively to serve our community. Thank you.
In closing, thank you so much on behalf of this team and the 125 staff who are back at the Health Department this morning serving our clients. Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Every Child a Reader Week. Please come forward to see the proclamations.
This is a three-way, excuse me, a three-way joint presentation because we have three community partners involved in this endeavor, and that is reading. We have the Tampa Bay Rays, we have the Early Learning Coalition, and we have the Braden and Kiwanis. And it gives me special pleasure, a personal pleasure, to be able to present this to my friend and fellow Kiwanian, Lisa Morrison, who has been, after I read the proclamation, I'd like for you to just give us a little overview of what we do in Kiwanis on this event. Proclamation, Board of County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida. Whereas parental education and literacy level is one of the most impacting influences for children under 3 years. And whereas low-income children are exposed to 30 million fewer words than their higher-income peers before age 3. And whereas parents and early childhood professionals play a critical role in the development of a child's early literacy skills. And whereas positive early language and literacy development can give children a window to the world, helping to ensure that each child meets their potential. And whereas the most successful way to improve the reading achievement of low-income children is to increase their access to print. And whereas children's academic successes at the ages of 9 and 10 can be attributed to the amount of talk they hear from birth through age 2. And whereas by the age of 2, children who have been read to regularly display greater language comprehension, larger vocabularies, and higher cognitive skills than their peers. And whereas the Early Learning Coalition of Manatee County, the Tampa Bay Rays, and Braden and Kiwanis have partnered with the community to read to 3,200 Manatee County preschool children and give them a book. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that April 13th through 17th, 2015, shall be known, designated, and set aside as Every Child a Reader Week in Manatee County, Florida. And the Board of County Commissioners calls on all citizens to assure that every child has a reading experience in that week. Adopted with a quorum present, voting today, 7th day of April 2015, and signed by our Chairman, Bessie Benak. So I have...
Hi, I'm Lisa Morrison. I'm here representing the Bradenton Kiwanis Club. I have with me Carrie Gaylord from the Early Learning Coalition of Manatee County. There's Brenda Rogers from the Community Services Department and the Bradenton Kiwanis Club. and Pat Johnson from Whole Child. I want to thank you for issuing this proclamation on behalf of the Kiwanis Club, the Raise Foundation, and the Early Learning Coalition. This is a program that was developed 4 years ago and has doubled in size each year until we met a maximum capacity of 3,200, and we've maintained that this year. This program involves community leaders going into early education facilities, otherwise known as preschools, and reading a book to the children. Now that the children have the excitement of having somebody come in and read to them, they get to take their own copy of that book home to read with their family and develop that love of literacy. So it not only promotes early education and early literacy, but also family engagement, because we hope that this brings the family together for a little bit of reading time. So thank you again, and I do have about 4 or 5 spots open in the Lakewood Ranch area if anybody else is looking to volunteer. The event takes place next week. Thank you.
All right, and I have done that, Every Child a Reader, ever since we've started, and it's a great experience, so I encourage you, if you want to get involved, to do it, because it's a lot of fun to read to the kids. Next up, Child Abuse Prevention Month. Please come forward to accept the award. I assume we have a large crowd here, so whoever would like to, please gather behind the podium.
Better listen to Connie. Come on. There goes
My
the
goodness.
room.
Wow.
I think we can put them all up here. Room will be empty.
Starts.
Wow.
Move over, Vanessa.
It's good to know we have a small army working on this issue.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who's minding the store?
No.
Keep it coming. Come on. Come closer. Y'all don't have to stand so far away. Big crowd. Everybody ready? All right. Whereas Florida's future prosperity depends on nurturing the healthy development of over 4 million children currently living, growing, and learning within our many diverse communities. And whereas research shows that safe and nurturing relationships and stimulating and stable environments improve brain development and child well-being, while neglectful or abusive experience and unstable or stressful environments increase the odds of poor childhood outcomes. And whereas the abuse and neglect of children can cause severe, costly, and lifelong problems affecting all of society, including physical and mental health problems, school failure, and criminal behavior. And whereas research also shows that parents and caregivers who have social networks and know how to seek help in times of trouble are more resilient and better able to provide safe environments and nurturing experience for their children. And whereas individuals, businesses, schools, and faith-based and community organizations must make children a top priority and take action to support the physical, social, emotional, and educational development and competency of all children. And whereas during the month of April, Prevent Child Abuse in Manatee County and Pinwheels for Prevention, in collaboration with the Florida Department of Children and Families, Manatee Sheriff's Office, and the Safe Children Coalition will be engaging communities throughout Manatee County in a coordinated effort to prevent child abuse and neglect by promoting awareness of healthy child development, positive parenting practices, and the types of concrete support families need within their communities. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County that April 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Manatee County, Florida, and urge all residents to engage in activities whose purpose is to strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for health and child development. Adopted with a quorum present and voting this 7th day of April, 2015, signed by Betsy Benek, Chair.
Commissioners, thank you so much for allowing me to accept this proclamation, but you don't really prevent child abuse without great partnerships. And I want to talk for a moment about the pinwheels, and while I'm doing that, I would like to ask 3 people to come forward: Captain Todd Shear, Lieutenant Barry Overstreet, and Director Melissa Lank-Sarix, to hand out to each of our county commissioners a pinwheel for prevention. Pinwheels for prevention remind us of the children that were abused, and we handled over 5,000 calls from the hotline in Manatee County on abuse and neglect last year. These pinwheels should remind us of childlike notions that stand for the chance of health, happiness, and full lives that each child deserves as they're growing up. As I've mentioned, we investigated over 5,000 calls to the hotline last year in our Child Protective Investigation Unit, and we have some of those folks standing behind me today that are involved in those investigations. Our detectives, our sex offender unit, handled over 475 sex offenders that were living in Manatee County, ensuring that they are where they're supposed to be and that we're keeping our children safe. Our Crimes Against Children's unit investigated over 2,000 cases, and our Domestic Violence unit over 1,000 where children were exposed to domestic violence. And some of those detectives are with us today. But again, we don't do this type of work without a great deal of partnership. And that's the Department of Health in Manatee County, Healthy Start, Family Partnership, and parents as teachers who are also standing here with us today. And even you, the programs that you approve through the Children's Services Advisory Board help us to prevent child abuse and neglect in Manatee County. As you may know, 18 years ago, we took over Child Protective Investigations from the Department of Children and Family. The Sheriff's Office took that on in 1997, in February of 1997, and I think we've been doing a very good job, and we appreciate the opportunity to keep children safe in Manatee County, and we will continue to do so with all of your all support. And thank you very much for this proclamation.
Come on, everybody's coming. Good job, everybody.
Okay. Thank you for all you do. We know that is an extremely tough job, but we're glad that you're there doing it.
Yep,
So
we
thank
are.
you for being here today and sharing with us.
The other way.
Good, I was all these sheriff folks here. I was like, what do we do? Okay, last but not least, Neil Spiritus Day.
Neil, he's our man.
Should we have all of his supporters come?
Come on down.
Come on.
Go on.
Come on,
Everybody
Michael.
needs to go, Jackie.
Michael.
Come on, you know you're here for this. Come on down. Jack?
Oh, good, he's coming down. Come on, everybody. Jackie, you want us to take pictures so you can be? Oh, you're videoing. Okay.
That's her excuse. It's a good one. How you doing?
Do that.
Where's Michael? All right.
He's there.
Oh, there he is. Proclamation, Board of County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida. Whereas Neil Spiritus has worked as the Manatee Chamber of Commerce Senior Vice President, advocating both community priorities and those of Manatee County's small businesses before state and federal lawmakers. And whereas Neil was instrumental in working with local and state officials to advance funding for the University Parkway I-75 diverging diamond interchange, and has helped secure state and federal funding that have improved safety and alleviated many traffic issues throughout the region. And whereas Neil worked with Manatee County, state, and federal leaders to secure $14 million in beach renourishment grants to restock miles of white sand along Anna Maria Island's coastline. And whereas Neil worked tirelessly to secure and to preserve an additional seat for Manatee County on the Southwest Florida Water Management District Board of Governors, helping to ensure local water needs are heard on the regional level. And whereas after 30 years with the Manatee Chamber of Commerce, Neil Spiritus is retiring on April 17th, 2015. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that Tuesday, April 7th, 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Neil Spiritus Day in Manatee County, Florida. Adopted with a quorum present and voting the 7th day of April 2015, the Board of County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, I'm honored, deeply honored, very much a surprise, even though I heard about it yesterday, but it was a great surprise. You know, I couldn't accept this except for all the people that I work for, the chamber staff. Lisa Reeder's been by me half of those years. Bob hired me, all of our leaders that are here and staff, and even Judge Smith, who's my legislative committee chair, and very honored that he's here today as well. You know, I think it was Commissioner Bussell. Was I here the last time I accepted a proclamation and you questioned 125 years? So I'm glad you got it right that it was 30 years when we accepted the proclamation for the chamber last year. I'm particularly honored not only for this board, but also other boards that serve before you, and those people, Larry and Harris, Ed Chance, Westwood Fletcher, Pat Glass. I mean, I'm deeply honored. It's been a pleasure working with you all those years, and also the other local governments and the state government as well. I'm deeply, deeply honored. The greatest thing probably that's significant to me is today is it would be my aunt's 94th birthday. And she actually gave me my first name. She passed away a year ago. So when I heard you were going to honor me today, this really touched my heart. Thank you very much.
We're going to go up. And we want to welcome Commissioner Gallen.
Yeah, we want to just also say welcome to Michael Gallen, who is now moving into this spot. Tough, tough shoes to fill, but we look forward to working with you.
Yay.
You're here.
I'm going to keep calling him Commissioner Gallen.
Okie dokie. That's great. Okay, next, moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have any requests by commissioners to pull any items from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing no one on the board, I'm going to go ahead and move to, are there any citizen comments? Anyone like to make any comments on consent agenda items? This is not on future agenda items, but on any item that is listed on the consent agenda, which is item number 8 through 17. Anyone who'd like to address the board on the consent agenda only this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the
I'll
board?
move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and approval for the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next we'll move to citizen comments. This is on future agenda items. You will have 3 minutes to address the board on each item that you would like to address the board on. Of 10 minutes to address the board. When I call your name, please come forward and state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the item. First up, I have Donald Browning. Would you like to come forward? Introduce your request.
Hi, my name's Donald Browning, as Betsy had mentioned, Commissioner. And Okay, speak up. Thank you for having me here today. I just want to ask you to do me a favor, if you would, please. There seems to be another issue that you've come up again, that it happened in the past. That's the issue of our driveway as it affects our home in Elwood Park. There was the driveway issue that got settled in 2008 by a member of the staff of the county. We showed them at that time the property description, we showed them the survey, we showed them the titles, we showed them the review that had been made by a title attorney, and the property was ours, and they said, yes, Donald, your property, your driveway is yours. And so that was well and good. That was in 2008, and that was not without a little bit of struggle, because in 2004, we were told to take down our gate and have it removed within 14 days, or it would be torn down. Well, during the next 4 years after that, we proved that the county had never had ownership of a right-of-way that came through our home, onto our property, or up our driveway. So that problem was settled. We now went over to the right-of-way issue because we own a piece of property that sits on the Braden River, a piece that is bounded to the north by submerged property owned by the Willis property. There's 63.8 acres out there, and they pay $51 a year taxes on their 68 acres, because it's submerged land, so noted in the property appraisers. We went through that whole ordeal, and with your help, we got that right away vacated, and with the help of the attorney. Now, that is not without its problems as they came up, but they were resolved. But there was history there, just like there was history in the involvement of the original claim by someone who wore two hats for the county back in 2004, but it was for Mr. Hunsaker. Got rid of the problems there when 3 people left, and he was responsible and got some of the best people you could get into those positions now. One of them I happened to have crossed paths with years ago, both in MacDill, again when I flew for the government, CIA over in Yugoslavia, going into places over there, and then back here at the county. We didn't know each other at those different times, but he was there, I was there. He was unloading as I was delivering and putting it into the phony hospitals. And I'll tell you, that's all I can tell you about that. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. If you want to just go ahead and close up, we'll give you like.
I have a tendency to blab, and I'm sorry, I get so excited. It just goes on. I'm going to sum it up. We have found a stake in our driveway, placed there by somebody from the surveying department of the county. And I said, you're not following the survey line. What are you doing? We're putting in a road boundary because we're thinking about putting roads in here. So I ask you today, please don't if it gets rushed through, then we have to start back again and prove all over again that our ownership. If it comes up, the road boundary, I'm asking you to please let me know, and don't let it get pushed through for acceptance until I can get notified, come back and bring you all the information, the details, records, titles, everything, that we have 100% ownership of where we are.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
We'll find out who put the stake in the ground.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
We'll have staff get
We'll
with
be in touch.
Thank you, sir.
We all have
I have
Don's phone number, probably.
One question. What year was the vacation? Because I was up here, I remember we did that.
It was
Yeah, we
later.
did it in 2013.
Yeah, there we go,
Okay.
because I knew it
Thought it was
Yeah, about November, December.
So you own the
November of
land.
2013.
You own the land, you own the driveway, and someone's putting a stake in.
Yes, and it takes 20 feet away of our driveway, and I don't understand why they would do that.
Because it should be a private civil matter, and it shouldn't be the county.
But we'll find out.
Let's find out. We'll find out if it is the county, because he has been working with the county
And
previously.
I'm going, I forgot, I'm going to meet with the county, an individual from the county at 1:30 today with my
Okay,
surveyor.
good. Thank you.
Try to find out why that stake is in the ground, where it is, and why it takes so much of property of ours away, and by the same token, gives the next door neighbor a wide swath. And I asked the surveyors that were there, I said, here's the survey, why are you doing that? Well, we were told to give a wide swath. So I don't know, and I have a tendency to think 2 or 3 levels deep. So
Well,
wonder.
I appreciate you being willing to meet with staff. Commissioner Bussell, you had a comment?
Yes, I'd like to disclose that I'm a personal friend of Don Browning, and I've worked with him on this problem, and it reminds me of that birthday candle that you blow out and it comes back to life again.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable, and I would implore that the county attorney and the county administrator see if we can't put this thing to bed for once and for all, and get it off his mind, because it's just not fair. Thank you.
Yeah, and I disclose that I know him as well, and he's talked to me, I remember in the past, and I thought it was, again, all put to bed, and now all of a sudden he's got to incur more attorney's fees to see what's going on, so hopefully you'll straighten it all out.
Thank you all.
Okay?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for being willing to meet with staff. Hopefully, you'll get some of this addressed, so appreciate that meeting. So let us know if
For a guy that likes to talk a lot, I stumble a lot, so it's.
that's all right. Thank you for
Thanks.
coming forward
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Wheeler has 2 items he wanted to address. So, Mr. Wheeler, you want to come up, and you have 3 minutes per item. Please come forward.
For the record, my name is William R. Wheeler. My name is William R. Wheeler. I'm a resident of this county, and I do have 2 issues. One of them I bring to your attention because it irritates me. On 63rd Avenue, I have asked several times about a traffic control light. So I've done a little research, and between that light and Lockwood Ridge Road, we have put a bridge over the Pierce Drainage Canal. That cost $1,155,000. We have widened the section from Tuttle to the highway to the road. That cost another $1.5 million. We've got roughly, as a county, we've got $3.4 million invested in that piece of road, and you still insist that we don't need a traffic light, and the trucks will make a left-hand turn or right-hand turn up 33rd Street, when if they could ride down that road, they would get to the end at Lockwood Ridge, and they would have a 4-lane road to turn into. It has, I think it has 12 traffic control devices over the intersection, left-hand turn lane, right-hand turn lane. It's a fully equipped and absolute system. And trucks cannot use it because they're fined if they get near it. Big signs say no truck traffic, basically. So I've still been told that, and this is the part I think that got me worse, was a few weeks ago there was trouble in another jurisdiction, quite similar to this, and someone was killed and at that intersection, and the people went out and looked at it and said, oh, we get you a traffic device. And when asked by a reporter what this took, well, we don't improve traffic intersections until somebody has been killed. I don't know which one of us is going to have to get killed there, but just bending up a car or putting my wife in medical care for several weeks doesn't seem to, she didn't die, so I guess we're not going to get her light. And I think, and I've heard that same expression mentioned to me, and who said it, I don't remember. I have amnesia in certain cases. I've been told the same thing in this county. Well, we don't have the funds. I said, you've got red lights, traffic control lights, controllers in storage from previous jobs where they have been removed and they are in storage, and longer poles have been put in or more cables been used. Why not let somebody go through and see what you have in the inventory? And, oh no, we can't do that, but it's going to cost $150,000 to put a traffic control device on that intersection.
Yeah.
I find that ludicrous. And since nobody's been killed, well, I guess we're not going to get it. But Connie and I watched a truck make that turn the other day, and her heart stopped. I know it did.
Thank you. And when you brought this issue before us, and of course it is coming, it is under study right now in design, and I can't.
I'm told the study
Exactly.
is over with, ma'am.
Mr. Schulhofer.
When is the date for that light? I can't remember. It's coming up in the next couple of years that light is programmed.
5.
17 is what I believe. But I'm going from memory, so.
5
thank you.
years.
Okay, would you like to move on to the next item?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you.
I submitted at the last meeting photographs of 7 ambulances parked at one of our hospitals in the holding pattern. I done a little homework on that, and I got 2 answers. One of them was we don't have the space in the emergency room. The other one was we don't have the staff. I done a little research there, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there are 5 schools in this county that educate nurses. Out of 5 different schools, there ought to be at least a couple of nurses for the emergency room. Number 2, I did not know this until I accidentally walked into it because I was given a referral, but the hospital rents out medical suites, office space, to private physicians to operate their practice out of it. So we're asked for more money to enhance the emergency services while the hospital corporation is renting part of the building out to private corporations. Doesn't make sense if we don't have the room for our own use. Why are we renting part of the building out? That doesn't sound like very good management to this old man. And yes, I am going to keep harping on this. The doctors tell me I have at least another 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
have a
Wheeler,
question for
for
Mr.
coming forward. Commissioner Whitmore, I have on the board.
Well, I just have to say something. Not everybody can work in the ER, Mr. Wheeler. I used to work in, but equipment's changed. You just can't take me, who still works as an RN, to go into ER. You can't respond, I don't think, Mr.
Yeah,
Wheeler.
we don't need
I'm
to have
making
a
under
dialogue.
comments, but I'm going to tell you, I did talk to the hospitals about that situation. We are in season. We have a lot of bad stuff going on and requiring hospitalization. County, at one time you heard from Ed, was at no threat. All the ERs were busy. And those medical office buildings that you're talking about are separate structures from the hospital. Every hospital in Manatee Hospital, including doctors in Sarasota Memorial, have doctors' offices that are attached to them. They are run by, maybe by the UHS, but they are leased out for private physicians so that private physicians don't have to go so far when they're making rounds on their patients. They don't have to travel all over. That is a standard practice all over the United States. And so to say that they are making money, they built that just like any other free enterprise to rent it out to physicians to pay for it. So, and that's been built for at least 15 years. Blake's had one since day one when they built, and Lakewood Ranch built one. Doctors has one because my husband practiced at Doctors in Sarasota. All the hospitals have them because physicians want to be close to where they practice medicine.
Well, number one, ma'am,
I don't think
the people in those ambulances are EMTs. They are not nurses. They are not trained emergency room.
Okay.
They are the
Thank you.
lowest
We need you to
order.
sit down, Mr. Wheeler, because we can't have a dialogue. This is
I'm
public
not
comment.
asking. I'm making a statement of fact. They are.
Thank
The
you.
lady misrepresented when she said
Please
they
sit
were
down.
nurses. They are not. They are EMTs that are being held.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Commissioner DeSabatino.
And just on that, I did not say EMS. I said the ER, not the EMS. So let me just clarify. That's probably why Mr. Wheeler didn't understand what I said. I said the staffing in the ER, not the EMS.
Okay.
Point of order.
We try not to dialogue during the public comment session, so I appreciate you recognizing that those are our procedures.
Point of order. Our standard procedure is public comment is for public comment. And when public comments close, that's when commissioners make their
Correct.
comments.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. All right. Next up for public comment, we have Jean Peelan.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I actually have 2 items too, but I don't think together they'll take 3 minutes. First, I wanted to mention, it was sparked by something in the newspaper this morning. I'm a volunteer for the State Department of Elder Affairs. I investigate complaints and long-term care facilities. from residents. So I'm a resident advocate in these facilities. I did see an article in the paper this morning where 2 or 3 Manatee County nursing homes were cited by ACA, the other state agency. And I want to say, well, that's true, and I read the circumstances about it. I want to say what's clear to me, the ombudsman, part of the ombudsman agency I work for covers Manatee and Hillsborough. And we have, in Manatee County, far, far, far fewer complaints than in Hillsborough. I mean, compared, that's both proportionally, actually. So I'm really pleased with how we're doing here. I was sorry to see that happened, the report this morning, but, on the whole, we have very few complaints in Manatee County long-term care facilities, which is a good thing. The other is I just wanted to say thank you to you all. I know that almost every meeting you get some abuse from animal advocates, and I'm just wanted to put a positive note in there. You're probably going to get bored seeing me up here doing this. But I know that the whole community and animal services as well has come from a dark place and really moved forward in the last year. And I'm so pleased with that forward movement. I know the introduction of the new shelter manager this morning, she's very impressive. And what I love is that no one is sort of sitting on their laurels and saying, well, now we're okay. Bill Hutchison is just moving and moving and moving to improve things. And I, as a citizen, am so appreciative of that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming forward. Next up, I signed up is Linda Neely. Please come forward, state your name.
Good morning, Linda Neely. The proclamations that this commission makes are wonderful, but I still yet have heard one proclamation for just the citizens of Manatee County who provide their taxes and their time to make our community the great place it is, because it is the individual citizens who make our community, not advisory boards, not the chamber. They do some work, but they don't represent the 330,000 residents of Manatee County. And I think that we should have a proclamation for the citizen, that you should honor the true people that really make Manatee County the great place that it is. And I would like you to consider that as something that you could consider doing to elevate the people, the hardworking people who actually reside and make the communities. Because if they don't go to events, those events mean nothing, do they? Poorly attended events, no matter who sponsors them, do not make the will of the community. That's my first statement. Secondly, the planning board for land use. When you get a bad haircut, we have the great ability for it to grow out and you can rechange it. But the land use code, we're setting in stone certain property restrictions. And there's many court cases that state that you, the governing body, have some responsibilities to your position. But they also talk about compelling reasons to pass things. And I think that when you go to your next workshop, because I believe you've indicated that you will be having future workshops on it, that you consider the rights of the people who actually own the property. I mean, it's shocking to me that this gentleman has to stand up again after a 5-year period that it's like his property rights are being contested again with somebody surveying his property. That's technically, if I had that myself, I'd call the sheriff and request that they trespass the person. So when you do this, do consider that we are a boating community. Believe it or not, we have almost equal vessels registered as cars, and those boats do need to be parked someplace. And I met a lady just after I left the meeting last week that she has to park her boat at her sister's because there is no way, because of the overhang on the adjoining house, to pull her boat through to her backyard. So if she didn't have her sister, she'd have to be paying a commercial rate.
You can get 3 more minutes because he's begun a second issue.
Yes. The second issue that I have is that we had a commissioner here who indicted his whole district with blight and crime. And I was shocked when that happened. And he never retracted that statement. He indicted every resident in his district as being the cause of the blight and crime. And we should have more respect because not everybody is involved in crime and in creating blight in the county. So when you have a commissioner who's that bold and forthright in his indictment of the citizens of, 1/7 of the county population, because I believe you do the districts fairly equal to population. That's just miserable. That's just, that is real bullying. That's bullying of a huge number of our population in the county. And he can't come to that, I don't think, by himself. I think that it's influenced by the entire board because he is a member of the board. So I would like to see more respect for the citizens from the board and to squash from the board any statements of such a broad and sweeping declaration of defamation of the citizens of the county. And that brings me to that you suspended a motion on this board for a hearing to happen today. And that item is not on the agenda, and I find that it was taken care of last Tuesday, the last Tuesday hearing. You can have your staff check it. You suspended it to time certain today, and yet then you moved it forward ahead of that. And we kind of depend on what you have to say to us. We come prepared. I'm one person. I have a full-time job. I have a family. I have a multiple business. And we the public don't have, I think you have 1,900 employees. And sometimes I wonder if they're working for us, the people of the county, or who they are working for. Because your land use development, I still have not had anybody answer the emails that I sent you as to who wrote the material you passed last Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on future agenda items? Please come forward. Now's your time to speak to the board. Please come forward, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board on an individual item.
Good morning, Commissioners, if it's still morning time. My name is Bob Litweiler, resident of Manatee County. I wanted to talk to you, get my notes. I want to talk to you. I own AutoGo Mobile Service. I don't know if you heard of it. Hopefully you have. Hopefully everybody has. I'm an Iraq veteran. Got out of the Army 2 years ago. Moved here from Texas. I was born in Florida. Moved back here, started this company. We're a completely mobile repair facility. I started to be honest with consumers. I worked at dealerships. I worked at a dealership here in Manatee County, and I strive on convenience and honesty. The ordinance 1510 will actually put me out of business. That's my wife, Kimberly. Puts me out of business. Well over $300,000 invested in the company. I don't know what we need to do to change it. I don't know if I can sleep on someone's couch. I have 4 kids. There's not a customer that I've ripped off. I've never lied to a customer, and they all come back. Because my dream, my wife works for the company. My kids help out all the time. I don't know what the whole package is about. it's revenue, if it's whatever. I do fleet accounts from Terminex. I do Lakewood Ranch Town Hall, all their vehicles, their employees' vehicles. I go in all the gated communities. I have doctors in wheelchairs that are here 14 days out of the year, and they make sure they see me. They actually almost came over for Easter dinner. We build a relationship with our customers. There's a lot of competitors out there. They're not licensed. They're probably not insured. I'm against them as well. I ask you not to be against me. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I have insurance. I have the license. And I have the care. I just met with someone last week to hopefully start a nonprofit organization to help veterans get a job skill. It's one of my dreams as well. I work 18, 19 hours a day. I love it. I don't complain. I miss my kids, just like being in Iraq, same thing. They're growing up. I have a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 11-year-old, and we adopted, now she's 4. Please don't do this. I don't know what else we need to do, what we need to do to change it. Maybe I was misrepresented, or misguided, but I understand I'm out of business. What do I do? Do I go on welfare? It's not an option. I'm not a quitter. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be addressing your comments shortly, as soon as public comment is over with. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board on a future agenda item, something they'd like to bring forward? Please come forward, address the board. Okay, seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to close the public comment portion. Let's go ahead and go to commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and ask, I think there, on the last gentleman's request, I think there's some miscommunication that has happened. You are not prohibited, and I would ask Maureen to come forward and help us explain, because we did discuss ordinance 15-10, which is the property maintenance ordinance, and the limitations that were put on the work that people could do in their driveway does not preclude somebody coming to someone's house and doing work there. The ordinance does not prohibit that. So if I understand correctly, that's what you do. You have a mobile equipment and you go to someone's personal residence and do work. That is not prohibited by the ordinance. So if you could please explain that, Maureen.
Yes, ma'am. Just by way of history, first of all, Maureen Sikora, Assistant County Attorney. At the present time, on residential property, and anything that's not an approved zoning district, automotive repairs are prohibited. So what this ordinance was intended to do was to open up and allow some minor repairs and servicing to take place on residential property. So what he may have been doing in the past might violate the land development code right now. But the property maintenance code was intended to allow certain minor repairs and service work to take place on residential property. And as approved by the board last Thursday, there were conditions that were placed on that repair and service work. Those conditions are as follows. The property owner or tenant must own the vehicle being worked on. So the person who lives there, it's their vehicle, whether they own the property or rent it. The service or repair work is limited to minor work, such as, and we just kind of gave some typical examples, changing or adding oil or other fluids, changing a battery, tire or spark plugs, or tuning up the engine. No service or repair work can take place on public right-of-way, and at the board meeting, you added in an exception for emergency repairs. And finally, a prohibition that no oil, gas, or other fluids may be allowed to drain, leak, or run off onto any grass, sod, soil, non-impervious surface, right-of-way, or public property. Those are the exceptions or conditions for allowing service or repair work to take place on residential property.
Okay, so I hope this clarifies it a little, but before we had a zoning code, which zoning codes can be very broad. They address what you can do on the property per zoning, and that was pretty restrictive for residential zoning. And we recognize that businesses do come to individual homes or places like Town Hall to do things like change out windshields, do minor repair work, the kind of work that I think that the gentleman was speaking about. We recognize that does happen, so we clarified that that is an allowable use.
On residential property, I don't know how the town hall is zoned at this point.
Residential property, but I would guess that if you
Private?
have, yeah, it's a privately owned, nonprofit, you know, I don't know whether or not that would be excluded in any way. If they have some vehicles that they have to have worked on, I don't know, that's something we really didn't discuss because it
The
just didn't come up.
complaints that code enforcement generally gets are in residential zoning districts where someone is doing some pretty major repairs on private property, especially like things like replacing transmissions, engines, major body work, that kind of thing. And keep in mind that on residential property or any property, code enforcement will be responding to complaints. Typically, you know, the type of work that we've described are things that pretty much are going to be over by the time code enforcement can even respond to a complaint. The property owner will not necessarily the business, but the property owner will normally be cited for the violation and will be given an opportunity to comply before there's even going to be a hearing. And then the property owner will have the opportunity to show up at the hearing and will be given additional time to comply before any code enforcement order, you know, takes effect. So there is a period of time built into this process for compliance.
Yeah, and the intent was to prohibit having automobile shops in neighborhoods. That was the intent of the regulation, not to exclude the individual residents from having work done on their vehicles. That was not the intent, and that's what we tried to specify. So if there's something that needs tweaking, certainly we can look at it, but, you know, was never our intent to add additional regulation. It was to clarify so that there would not be confusion, so that code enforcement could be more clear. Thank you. Anybody want to address this issue specifically? And I'm sorry, I kind of jumped
That's
about
okay.
around. I have Commissioner DiSabatino.
So I'm glad you brought that up, and I just wanted to address to see that, you know, if he does anything more than that. Also, I talked to Maureen, and if you're doing any of these repairs and even something more intensive, if it's in the garage, we don't.
If it's in the
Doesn't
garage and we
apply.
can't see it, we cannot cite it.
Right, so if
So-
they're pulling an engine block in someone's garage and they're closing it at night, it's up on blocks, we don't touch that. So it's just, it was really meant for someone having their car outside, up on blocks for days, months, years on end, and creating blight and havoc in the neighborhood. So that was mainly what it was. I just wanted to address, when we added language for ag one, and maybe this is discussion for commissioner comments later. When we added, we have A1, and we added RSF1. Do a lot of these things, each one of these need to be addressed sometimes individually, like 703.2, each one, to say if it's an ag, does it have to be addressed individually? If someone's coming to a house in ag and ag 1, are they exempt from any of the work being done in a driveway? We didn't clarify that.
The issue about the service of repair work on residential property is separate from the language that was added regarding the agriculture, because that dealt with storage of restricted vehicles and where they could be stored on property that is located within agriculture or RSF1 zone property.
Okay.
So that's a separate thing from the work on the working on the cars.
Right, so did we overlook that, or we need to discuss that further? Not right now, but do we need to discuss that further to say some of these areas can be opened up to Ag 1, or SF1.
If we're talking about changing the intent of the ordinance we adopted, I would like to keep that maybe a little bit later, and
Yeah,
maybe you can bring that up.
exactly.
Because
So-
I don't want to veer off, because we have
Right,
a
and
lot
we're
of
on
people on the
comment,
board
and
that
that's
want
why-
to talk specifically to the issues that were brought up by the
Right.
public, so we can
Yes.
hold on to that, and we can talk about that in just a little bit.
Right, and then,
Okay.
so is there any other dialogue on that?
Yes.
I have other
Commissioner
things, okay.
Ball.
I just wanted to say, I know that you come out and you do a lot of work in my district, which part is in Lakewood Ranch. If you would please call my office, set up an appointment with me, I'd like to talk to you about this place.
Okay, that's it. Next up, Commissioner Chappie.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
Right, yeah.
This does not apply to the municipalities in Manatee County. They have their own rules and regulations, and it does not apply to homeowners associations that are still enforce and establish rules and regulations. So, you know, that helps.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, because I got an email saying that we are interrupting businesses in Lakewood Ranch, and I was kind of surprised, so I asked the sender of the email to give me specific instances, and I would guess that the gentleman that came forward was probably one of the specific instances. And we have no desire, no reason to want to put anyone out of business. That's not what we do here. You know, we want to work with all the businesses in this community to make sure they can be successful, especially ones owned by Iraq veterans that are making a living and working with their kids. I think that's great to have a family-run business, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that we're not going to interrupt your business. I know I speak for the board on that. I mean, that's certainly the way we are. I would like to address Ms. Neely's comments. I had been given an indication that this issue might come up about the fact that we did continue specifically from the morning to the afternoon was a specific continuation when we discussed the ordinance. If you remember, we broke, and we said we would bring this up at 1:30 that afternoon, or as soon thereafter may be heard, because we clarified that specifically, because the question was when it would come up. So I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding or mishearing, but that was, in fact, what was stated at the hearing, that it would be heard that afternoon. I had closed the public hearing portion of the meeting that morning, and the county attorney, Mr. Clegg, when he came to sit down, advised that we should reopen it for public comment, which I did, but anyone who spoke in the morning would not have been allowed to speak in the afternoon, is what I've been told by the county attorney. So,
That's correct, under your established procedures, Madam Chair.
so I don't have any problem with that. Again, anytime there's a new ordinance, I understand there's going to be confusion, and I invite people to please call any of their commissioners that they would like to sit down and discuss this, and if there's something that needs to be tweaked, well, we can always bring it back. Commissioner DeSabatino?
Yeah, and I got some emails about, you know, we're being invasive, and does she need to take her garden out of the front yard? And I said, it's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we're not trying to impose anything on the citizens that is not what we think is in the best interest of the whole community. And I know I've heard from a lot of citizens that, you know, we added in the boats, but that's been there. Was it always enforced? I don't know. But it was enforced, maybe not in all the occasions, but I know other people who have had their boats tagged and so forth. So we weren't ignoring it. So that's all I have on that issue. And then I have others if nobody has any issue on that issue.
Okay. Well, we're going to, there's no one else on the board. Appreciate everyone coming forward, bringing your concerns forward. They will be addressed. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion, and we'll go ahead and move on to the rest of the agenda. We have no board appointments, Port Authority. I assume we have nothing for the Port Authority? Okay. No advertised public hearings. And the next item we have on our regular agenda is Tri-Transit Day. Jeff, if you'd like to come forward.
Good morning. Bill Steele, Transit Division Manager. Quickly, just wanted to make you aware that April 20th through the 24th is actually Tri-Transit Week, and April 22nd has been designated as Tri-Transit Day. So we've included in your packet a resolution -15038 designating April 22nd as Tri-Transit Day and asking that the board approve free fare on our fixed route system on that day. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, can you explain what that means? So anyone can just show up on a bus and take it for free? Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, ma'am. We actually bag the fare box so nobody can pay a fare. Anybody that shows up at a stop rides free.
So that's on April 22nd in Manatee County, and then inter-county routes on April 25th?
Yes, ma'am. Something different this year is actually Sarasota County has a different day. Typically, through the region, it is on Earth Day. We have Tri-Transit Day on Earth Day, which is April 22nd. SCAT has decided to make it April 25th. In honor of that, we included in the resolution free fare on our inter-county routes just to support their efforts.
Okay, great. Well, it's your chance to see what it's like to ride a bus, how long it takes to get where you're going, and how good the system works. So I hope that the public will take advantage of this so we can get feedback. I'm looking forward to trying it myself that day. It's been a while since I've been on a bus, but I will say that I was out at the beach this weekend. I saw the free trolleys. They were packed. Packed. Looked like something from New York with all the people standing there. So I got a kick out of that.
Just looking at some ridership numbers compared to March of 2014, ridership on the trolley was up significantly.
Okay, well, let's pack those buses. Commissioner Whitmore.
I've been helping somebody out that needed to see a doctor that makes like $9 an hour, has no insurance. So anyway, with the new transit, he was able to get to the Rabonia Clinic. Thank you. And he lives in the west part of town. It took him 2 hours, but he got there. And then I gave him a ride home. But so I went there and I talked to the people that work at Rabonia, and they were telling me that it has helped their patients. They're seeing an uptick in their patients being able to get there actually on time now, and that their patients really, really appreciate it. So I do, I'm glad that we added this, and I very much appreciate the county commission and the county doing this. I actually called Lee Redford the other day, the other night, to see how she was, because I haven't heard from her. I want to make sure she was okay.
Yeah.
And then she was fine. Then she started on the transit and said that we had taken some transit areas away, that we aren't putting covered transit everywhere. And
speaking of the microphone as you're being requested.
And I know we are working on it. I talked to somebody, Ron or somebody, but are we still looking at more covered shelters? Are we still looking at all that? And there is a place by 41 by the McDonald's and the Volkswagen right there. I always see elderly people standing there. Nobody young. It's always elderly. They're leaning against the pole. And I've talked to you guys about that. It's such a narrow right-of-way, even a bench. But are we still looking at that? I know we're working at the county, but, I just want to make sure that we weren't taking away bus stops. I didn't think we were. If you could help me out on this.
Yeah, no stops have been removed that I'm aware of. The intent is that when we pour the ADA pads, that we come right behind. Or I should say, at the same time we're pouring the ADA boarding pads, we're pouring pads for amenities. Typically, it's either a bench or a shelter. There are some locations that have limited right-of-way, and we have a solution for that. We call it a semi-seat. Okay. So it provides some level of seating, but at most stops, you will see a bench. At the more high-volume stops, you'll see a shelter. So that program has not stopped. In fact, we have 50 new shelters on order.
Oh, well, that's good to know. And the one on 41 by the Volkswagen and the McDonald's there, I think it's McDonald's, it's about 24 inches. So you are not going to get an ADA pad there. So that's one of the ones you'd probably use a bench. It's just every time I go by, I've never seen anybody young. It's always the elderly, and they're leaning against it. So I don't know what the time frame is, but when your guys going on Route 99, if they notice that, maybe they could bring it to your attention.
Sure.
It's not like young kids are standing there.
So we've poured most of the ADA pads now on 99,
okay.
On Route 41 for the general community. US 41, we have most of those stops already improved. So we have our own county crews that come in behind that on the weekends after we've passed inspection, and they actually install those amenities. So over the next several weekends, probably up to Memorial Day weekend, you'll see our crews out there installing those amenities.
Good, thank you. Good job.
I know there's very limited right-of-way along some places along 41, because that's why we hadn't had sidewalks in the past.
Right.
And specifically, that's why you got the pathways. People cut through the
yeah.
yard because there's so limited right-of-way in some of those areas.
Sometimes we can get an easement with the property owner. You actually have a resolution that you've adopted that delegated that authority to staff. So where we can, we also use that easement authority to place amenities.
Good.
Okay, great. Commissioner DiSabatino?
No, it's great. I love the bus stops and the shelters and your creative bike racks, like the one out here. It's very cute with the colors and the theme. And I know some of the areas on 41, you're still waiting for the sidewalks through FDOT. So some of those you might be waiting on, not to pour the pad until the sidewalk is in, and FDOT's acquiring some of that right away.
Well, typically, we go ahead and pour the pad
Okay.
and connect to whatever's there.
Uh-huh.
And then, once that sidewalk connection comes in, then we work with DOT to connect to our pad.
Okay.
So that there's an accessible route. If
Okay,
there's a
good.
sidewalk there, we'll always connect to it.
Right. And just curious, what's your policy on tipping the operators? Is there any policy that you have? They're allowed to get tips, not allowed to get tips?
No, ma'am, they're county employees, they're not allowed to collect a tip. Now, I think that on the beach quarter, on the trolley, you know, you have that donation box. I
Right.
think that some of those passengers may actually think that's a tip, and they're providing a tip to the operator, but that actually goes to offset
Okay.
what we receive through advertising.
Got it. Thank you.
I know in Christmas time on the island, somebody makes all the trolley drivers food.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Bussell?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt Resolution R15038 as suggested.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. I'm going to go ahead. Is there any public comment? Anyone like to make a comment about this item? Please come forward and state your name for the record. Mr. Wheeler, you may come forward, please.
My name is William R. Wheeler. I live in this county, for the record. That having said, is there a very simple way on the internet, like not some great long drawn-out WW into the night, but something that says like Manatee Transportation or Manatee Buses, where you can go on there, and maybe there isn't, and I simply haven't found it, but that you can pick a bus route, see where it goes, and see where the pickup points are. Is there such a thing on the internet that we have that's simple like that?
Not yet.
I would have to defer to staff. We'll go ahead and thank you for your comment, and we'll let staff come back up and address it in a minute.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have just Googled, quote, Manatee County buses. And the very first item that comes up is Manatee County Area Transit. There's a link to bus and trolley schedules, fares, handy bus, ridership, planning, comments, and suggestions.
Cool.
So the answer to Mr. Wheeler's question is a simple yes. Google Manatee County buses, and you'll get all the info you need.
That was
Ask
fast.
and you shall receive.
Okay.
My lucky day.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Mr. Steele, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, ma'am, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Has all the locations.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to, that's good. I didn't know that. I've learned something today. That's
And
great.
did we just add 4 new buses to last week?
4 we bought.
Purchasing.
Have to buy them.
Yeah. We
Capital.
we okay to purchase, 4 new buses last week?
I think it was 4.
Yeah, that is a good question. Thank you. Actually, we have 6 buses that are on order. Those are strictly replacement buses, and delivery starts this month. And then 2 weeks ago, the board approved the purchase of 4. Those are really the expansion buses for a new service in 16 and 17.
Good.
And I do want to double back to Mr. Wheeler's question. I don't know that the stop level detail that he's looking for is available now. We have that through City Works as staff, but we will, over time, include that so that folks can pull up a particular stop and see what amenities are there.
And are you working toward a smartphone application as well? I think that's something also in the future works.
Yes, we have specifications that we've developed and are finalizing now for all of that technology. And then we're working with Hart, as you might recall, in Tabarda on the regional smart card project.
Right.
So we have a lot of technology that's in the wings.
Yeah, and the idea is recognizing that, again, that the region has these kind of, services, and if we work together, we can create something and have economies of scale working together and trying to bring this kind of technology into the system. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, anybody else who wanted to address the board on this issue, please come forward, state your name.
Hi, Linda Neely, and I'm fortunate enough to have a vehicle and family members that also have vehicles and drive. And I've told you before, I did attempt one time to take the bus down to Sarasota to pick up a U-Haul truck. And after almost 4 hours of attempting to get there, I did finally make my destination, but it was great. I had thought to take a book. I believe that one of the things that needs to be is approximate times on your routes as well, so that people that are trying to make doctor's appointments or time-certified issues have an understanding of the length involved in their rides. And it is not currently available on the internet. Yes, they do have a web page. Yes, they do take comments. I still believe also that the handy bus requirements of the county are absolutely the most stringent that there are. That the last time I checked, it took 2 professional, specific doctors to give a handicap certification. Yes, Ms. Whitmore's shaking her head. Yes, that is still correct. Nowhere else in the country is that a requirement. Nowhere. In Michigan, I have a handicap sticker. I can go to my father's home and I can call their handy bus as an out-of-state person and get a ride. I don't have to jump through hoops or anything else, and they say they don't have any abuses of the system, because I actually went down to the county and talked to them. And that handy bus is also funded by the federal government to keep the disabled in their homes, which is much more comfortable for them, and it is cheaper for the community to support that than to put them into a facility. So I really would like the commissioners to take a look. Why do we have such an absolute stringent requirement on our handy bus? Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on this issue? Ms. Neely's comments made me think of something that I saw at the Tabarda meeting, where there is an app that has been developed by Cutter in Cutter Center for Urban Transportation Research that does let you see where a bus is located, and they have a pilot project up in Tampa that they're working on. I don't know, Bill, if you're familiar with it. There was a presentation at Tabarda last meeting. I thought that was really cool, so that you could see where the bus was, when it was going to be arriving, and they're looking at how that kind of technology, I guess, could be distributed elsewhere. Did you want to make a comment?
That is the ultimate goal, is to get a new AVL system and use that to build a real-time bus information system. And it's the similar app to what you heard about at Tabarda, but it's a combined technology. You could, with your phone or a smartphone, get a notification of the bus arriving at a designated stop in advance of that. So if you wanted 5-minute notification or 10-minute notification in real time, you would have that. So that's the technology we're working on right now.
Yeah, that would be great, obviously. Okay, anyone, Commissioner Sabatini, did you want to make a comment?
Are we the only area that requires the doctor's excuse? I thought they were like the ADA rules or something.
Just for that level of detail, we'd prefer to have that type of a discussion at a work session, and especially paratransit on its funding being many different streams of money and contracts and agreements. So we would feel, plus we have all the players at the table at one time. It talks about a level of service, an expected level of service, and there's a lot of other things that go in with that, and qualification is just one step of the process.
Could we have a workshop on that in the future?
Thank you. I'm sure we'll be discussing transit at some time in the future, probably with the budget, if nothing else.
We could. It's an operational issue, but we can put that on a list of scheduled workshops as to talk more about transit and where we're going in the future.
Para is one that has been potential. I mean, it has a fare issue that hasn't been resolved and an eligibility issue that has been in place for quite some time.
What was that?
Paratransit.
Paratransit.
Okay.
Not the fixed route. You've seen us talk about fixed route quite a bit recently.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion that's on the floor? Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, staff, for coming forward. I see Mr. Gary Tibbetts in the audience. Did you want to come forward and address us on anything? Or are you just here hanging out? We'd love to hear from you. What's going on? If you have anything you'd like to share, because we're at the commissioner point of the agenda. So, if there's anything.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a great opportunity to be here and just come before you. I just wanted to just update everybody that there is some issues out in Holmes Beach regards to the mailboxes and stuff like that. And they are, our office right now is working on a meeting at Holmes Beach City Hall. It'll be April 27th, 10:30 in the morning. And we're going to bring the congressman and officials from the Seacoast United Postal Service together, and so that they can address the people, elected officials, and see if we can't come to some sort of decision on what's going to happen. Secondly, I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew that Congressman Schuster, the chairman of the Transportation Committee, is going to be coming. He'll be here the 20th of April, and he'll be meeting with people at Kaiser College, I believe at that's at 3 o'clock. 1:30 we'll be at the port.
Right.
And, but we just wanted to make sure that you were up to date on that, and it's always a pleasure to be here and see the workings of Manatee County, which is a great county.
Okay, well, thank
Any
you for
questions?
coming forward and bringing that information.
You bet.
Any questions for Mr. Tibbetts, anyone?
No. He is everywhere.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your
Alrighty.
leadership on this issue with post office. I know it's been a concern. We've been seeing the emails.
We'll have to see what happens, but it seems like with, Commissioner Whitmore, very, very knowledgeable on how long it's been there, and she's had a mailbox there for many, many years, so.
69 or 70.
There you go. So very, very historic too, so let's
And
hope
I
we
talked to the
can.
founder of the city, his daughter, and he was there. And he's one that confirmed that it's been there since the 50s, because I didn't know it had been there that long.
Well, that's great information that we can all bring to the United Postal Service. Hopefully, we can come to some great decision there.
Okay.
So I thank you.
Okay, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, I don't have anything else on Commissioner agenda, so we'll go to Commissioner comments. I'm just going to go on down the line, start with Mr. Chappie.
Sunday morning, Easter sunrise service, the Anna Maria Island Kiwanis sponsor that every year. We had probably right around 2,000 people there. It was a wonderful service. So I want to thank the staff, our Charlie Bishop and his team, and the parks and their team for the great work they always do to keep the parks up to snuff with regards to cleanliness and everything. There was a minor issue during Saturday morning where some damage was done to the ladies' room restroom door, and staff was out there in a heartbeat and took care of it. So it could have been a disaster with a couple thousand people there, and you can't
sure
get in the
could.
restroom, especially the ladies' restroom, right? So
Yeah, you got
we
it.
didn't want to go there.
They could go in
And they
the
took care of
water.
it. So thank you,
Okay.
and that's all I have.
Great. Good to hear. All right, Robin?
Yes, Mr. Wheeler had mentioned the accident at one of the intersections, so maybe after the meeting, he can tell me what intersection that was that had that incident. Because I know Mr. Schulhofer was here, he's been busy working on that. I saw Gene Palin was here. I saw that article, and someone the other day had asked me about a list. They thought there were 5 or 7 facilities that were cited, and I think I sent a memo to staff if they had a list of those facilities for complaints, were the elder complaints.
Oh.
And thank her for all her work on that and in the animal world. It's great to see the new manager of the shelter. But she's not she's not going to be the director, correct? She's just
Manager.
So you're still working on the new director, you're still working on a new bill, okay? And do you know if that will stay under you or go back to public safety? I guess that's all on the table.
At some point in time, it will go back to public safety. Time is yet to be determined.
Okay. Mentioned earlier about the proclamations. They were all good proclamations. I think we all were sitting here unanimously for 45 minutes straight with smiles on our faces, so that's unusual. And thank you to staff who worked and put them together, sometimes on very short notice, like yesterday for today. And let's see. It's too bad that Commissioner Smith wasn't here to defend himself today. Those are pretty strong accusations, and I know he's very passionate about his district, as we all are, about our districts and the whole community. I don't think he meant that his entire district is blight. I don't mean that at all. But there are certain sections of every place in the county that needs our help. And in my case, I'm trying to work with the residents in Bay Shore and Pride Park and some other areas. And we do see a lot of positive fruits of our labor. And it just takes a community-wide effort. And I know there's always some naysayers. You always have, like, I always call them the dirty dozen, who are opposed to anything you want to do and impose on them. But I think we have everyone's best interest at heart for the whole community. And I know Commissioner Smith, when he recovers from his loss, he'll be back to speak with Ms. Neely and her comments. So just wanted to shout out for Commissioner Smith that he's only been on a few months, and he's just, a sponge, learning as much as he can about the whole county because he was focused on the city. So I hope we're going to work, I know Commissioner Ball is going to work with Mr. Litweiler about his concerns about his business. And hopefully that won't affect his business in any way, and shed light on what he's been doing and what he can do in the future. Then getting back to 15-10, so in the future, maybe I could sit down with Maureen and go over some of these areas that I think need, maybe just to clarify, if she hears her name, if it will apply to A1, and Res 1, so maybe we can add some of that back in the future to make sure that those people that live on 1 acre or more lots aren't as affected as residential who live, 30, 50-foot lots.
Just to address that, I know the specific regulation that changed was the one about parking restricted vehicles.
Right.
And that's why we changed that.
That was the boats.
Yes.
And-
Well, whatever
and
restricted
storage.
vehicles are, they're expanded more than that.
Right.
To specifically have an exemption for agricultural A1
Right.
and RSF1, which is
Right.
1 acre lots.
And Maureen dropped off information to me yesterday, and I just need to clarify, and I'll get with her regarding it. It said excluding A1, and it didn't say RSF1, so maybe this was an interim copy. It wasn't the final copy.
Commissioner DeSabatino, you're correct. As I explained to you yesterday on the phone, we had gone through the ordinance that was on your agenda last week, and we had kind of annotated what the comparable sections were in the Land Development Code. That was for my benefit. My paralegal in the office had put that together.
Right.
When you made the changes at the board meeting, we didn't all of a sudden go back and re-annotate everything because we were trying to get those revisions to you at that meeting.
Okay, but you will get us an updated
Well,
version.
what we are going to do now is we are working on an ordinance that will amend the Land Development Code to specifically repeal those provisions that are in conflict with the new ordinance out of the Land Development Code. So all of those annotated sections that you saw will now be coming out of the Land Development Code, And so there won't be that conflict anymore between that ordinance and the property maintenance standards ordinance.
I appreciate all the hard work you and your team have done with this. I know there's always some folks that aren't in favor of all that we did, but I think the only area that we got a little more restrictive was just the clothesline. And we added that to the front if there's no other place. So I think, you know, we did as best as we could with that. And as you said, we opened it up for the repairs at residential properties. So a lot of people didn't get all the information, and I appreciate them coming forward. And anybody who has questions can address any one of us or staff, and see, you know, what we missed, how we need to tweak it. But it's not etched in stone at the moment.
Well,
it is, but
the board adopted ordinance number 1510 last Thursday.
Right.
It's my understanding it has been sent to the Secretary of State's office and is being sent and transmitted to Municipal Code Corporation. At any time, the board can direct staff and our office to make appropriate amendments to any ordinance, not just this one.
Right.
And we will then bring that back as an amendment to the Code of Ordinances. Should any member of the board desire any changes to this ordinance or any other ones that we have adopted, that the board has adopted. You know, we're willing to entertain whatever direction the board wants to give.
Right, we are living, breathing documents that can change. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your work. Last night I was at the LMAC meeting, and they're very passionate. I enjoyed it. I was only going to go for a little bit because of my voice, but I stayed the whole time. And Damon Moore from Charlie Hunsaker's, he's very knowledgeable of all the projects, what's going on, and I asked him to look into all the trails that we talked about. I think that their division has taken that on, that to connect the bike ped trails through the colleges up to our parks and our preserves. So I know they're working on that. I think it was brought up at the MPO too. You're working on a coordinator, and so interesting to hear what happened at the MPO. And then just maybe one-on-one briefings of a takeaway from the Tiger Bay presentation that we gave, and maybe we can have a copy of what Karen presented, because I heard it was great. I heard it was really unbiased. It was in-depth, honest discussion. So it would be nice to see that report and how that can help us moving forward with the healthcare issue. And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah, I was at the Tiger Bay. I think I was the only one that attended the Tiger Bay, and yeah, it was just, you know, a bit more of the same, but updated with where the situation is now with the states and what's going on at the, you know, the legislature in terms of the budget and the issue with the feds and the LIP money. And so Karen basically talked about the situation that we stand in, which is we really don't know what the funding picture is going to be, but we know we've had funding in the past, and we're not going to have that funding in the future, so it's going to be an issue, and I think all of us
I watched
know that.
it on TV. It was.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it yet. I have one other item I forgot. And I think Yvonne sent the email out either last night or this morning from this lady, Jane Casey, who lives in Garden Lakes and is concerned about the feral cats. Evidently, there was that equestrian property right there at 3739, and it's no longer in business.
Oh.
That's sad to see. So a lot of the cats that they had from their barn are now encroaching into Garden Lakes for their food source. So I think she works for MSO, and on her Saturday, she called and got the directions of what she needed to do to trap them and bring them to get spayed and neutered, and she did that, and the 3 of them were already spayed and neutered, so they just told her that she needs to just bring them back where she got them, and then try to have the food source at the fence at the equestrian property. But evidently, to make a long story short, they know the food source is at her house. So I know we talked about this before for the no-kill and the TNR, but she's asking our help if there's been multiple encounters and they're disturbing the health and safety of the residents in the area by sitting on their porches, sitting on their cars, and a lot of people that are older have compromised immune systems, so I don't know if this needs to be revisited. I said I haven't heard of many instances since the Trailer States issue. She said the MSO gets complaints quite often, and then they direct them to where they need to go. So it's a slippery slope right there with the no-kill policy. So I felt for her, but I don't have any solutions for it right now. I don't.
Just put food at the fence every day, and eventually they will train and don't feed them.
Yeah.
Put food there every day consistently, and they
Uh-huh.
will eventually go there.
Yeah, I think she said because of her job, she can't
read
do it
her
every
email.
day. She does
Well,
it like
then
twice a
it's
week.
not going to work.
Yeah, she can't
They
do it
need
every
to
day.
eat 7 days a week.
I know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the help is for there, or, we had talked earlier about a community by community basis. I haven't heard anything about Trailer States lately. And this was season, so that's when we had all the ruckus last year during season, and I didn't hear anything this year. So
I would recommend to her that she feeds them every day or find somebody and then see how it goes from there, and then she'll send us an email if it doesn't work.
do you want to respond to her, or you want me to do it?
Can.
Okay,
Okay, anything else?
that's it, thanks.
No answers to that one. Commissioner Bussin.
I'd like to comment on this, the person who stood up and said the things about Commissioner Smith. I think, without any doubt, that was a complete mischaracterization of what he said,
Right.
bordering on an outright lie, in my opinion. To even suggest that he would indict his district or his neighborhood is ludicrous. Each of us 7 have pockets of poverty, pockets of slum and blight in our districts, and we're aware of them, and we are concerned about them, but we don't say anything about them that demeans the people that live there or anything about them. So I think that sort of thing, it should have been squelched when it was said, but our rules don't allow that apparently, but it certainly was out of line, and I would hope that we would not have anybody do that again in the future. That's all I have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my thought was, how awful when he's not here to be able to
Right.
respond, to bring this up.
During
but
a
it wasn't-
family emergency.
Right, in a situation that he's in right now, being home with his family and electing to do that. But it didn't seem to, it didn't raise to the level of a personal attack. She was addressing the statements that he made. And Commissioner
Right.
Smith's a passionate guy for his
I give him a lot of credit, because, a lot of times we think these things, but we just don't say them. We don't want to offend someone, and.
We know he's going to continue to be passionate for the district, and of course, he, in discussing the ordinance that was before us, he made those comments, and it's his right. The other thing that I just kept thinking, will this person that comes forward always is very passionate about her right as a citizen to make these statements, yet she's condemning him for making statements that he feels very passionate about. I thought that was a tad ironic.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead
you.
and move on to you, Commissioner Baugh, your comments.
I like that. That was good. I have Charles Smith listed as number 5 on my list, but I'm going to bring him up to number 1 since we were just talking about that. And I totally agree with what's been said here. Commissioner Smith is very dedicated to his community, his district. He tries very hard. He's not here today because of his father passing. So to come and attack him today was truly, I thought, not very nice. And I got to tell you, he gets a lot of kudos from me because he speaks what he thinks and he stands up for his rights to take care of his district, and that's what he should be doing. So getting back to my number 1, I want to say welcome to John Mass, who has taken over as president of the Building Industry of America. Alan Anderson, as you know, is retiring on, I believe, the 17th of this month. So I wish John the best. I think he'll do very well. He comes to the BIA from Sarasota County, so he's very familiar with how things work, and I, for one, am looking forward to working with him. Number 2, as most of you know, we went to Tally a week or so ago. I'll just touch base on a couple of things. I'm sure that others will say something, but the ones that didn't go are probably wondering what took place. We went up there, of course, we talked about our water projects, and from what I'm hearing, 2 of those are looking good, getting through committees. Our utility lien is moving right along. It's been through 2 committees. Looks like that's going to pass. What we're waiting on, however, is the P25 radio system that we're doing with Sarasota County. It was my understanding, and I think perhaps the others, commissioners that were there, heard the same thing, and that's that, that the P25 radio system went to Tallahassee a little late because of time constraints that we had and Sarasota had, so it's probably going to be coming up in the next week or 2, so looking forward to hearing about that. I felt overall that our trip was very successful. I will not mention the port. I'll leave that up to the port chair. Next on my list, and this is just amazing, you all know that MIACA is in my district. Levi Tootin is in the hospital right now. He's 35 years old, and he's in the hospital with severe burns. And he got the severe burns because he went into a burning car and rescued a 15-year-old boy who was in a car accident. So I just, my prayers go to Levi and his family. I think when he is better, he definitely should receive a proclamation from this board.
Yeah, I smell up another proclamation.
Yeah, you do. That was
Heroism.
Very heroic of him to do that, and such an unselfish
And he's
thing.
just a citizen, correct?
Yeah,
He's not EMS or anything.
No, he's a citizen. He saw it happen, and he went to the rescue, and that's what that's what people in Manatee County do, and
That's what I thought.
it warms the heart, and I just feel so bad for him because I know right now he's in a lot of pain. But
Where is he in here or in Tampa?
Manatee.
no, Manatee. So just keep him in your prayers and his family. That he gets well soon, and I'll wait for the day that he comes before this board. Anyway, that's all I have, and just heartwarming to hear of somebody like Levi.
Without hesitation, went into a burning vehicle, took a fire extinguisher, tried to put the fire out, and when that didn't work, he knew what he had to do. So, thank goodness he was there. Carol?
We did go up, we met with FDOT and Secretary Boxell and his staff regarding Port Manatee, and also then after I was done, Vanessa, on behalf of the county, thanked him for University Parkway and the exchange. But we did talk about potential ways to fund the local share of Berth 9, and he gave us some options, and we're going to follow up with that. So all in all, it went well. We called him Secretary, and
he didn't like that.
He didn't like that at all. We have to call him Jim. And I said, no, and he goes, well, my previous boss says if I didn't call him that, he was fired. And I said, well, you do control the purse strings for funding. So Jim, it's Jim from now on.
Secretary Jim.
Exactly. I don't know if I brought this up. I think I did, but I was, there's a local girl that just moved to Palmetto, kind of by the restaurant around there, her and her husband was in my daughter's wedding. She's from New York. She had to go to her wedding shower, and she's used to not having a car. So she took a water taxi from Palmetto to West Bradenton, which, leave it to somebody like that, young, to figure all this out. And then she went and called Uber to take her to the baby shower. So she never took a car, and it was like nothing for her. My daughter was at the shower and told me about it, and I just was really impressed. So it sounds like there are little local ways to get around and stuff, but I just want you to know it was a real life situation. And also, we see all this paperwork where the baseball teams bring business to Manatee County, and yay. And it brings, there is a whole sector that just comes for the baseball games during spring break. Well, I've been working at my daughter's store on Sundays helping her out. Since she won't, Mom will, but I do it for clothes, so of course I will.
We work for clothes.
I met these nice ladies that got out of it. It was their husband's 60th birthday, and they said, well, we would rather hang out on the island, go shopping, and you guys go to the game. And they came down just for spring training. So I was, and they were from Pittsburgh. So I actually did meet people that actually said what our paperwork tells us. Let's see, I wanted to tell you two things, and then I want to show you, of course, two different pictures of what's going on. We did talk about the ordinance limiting pet stores from having business models of FDA puppy mills. And Rob Eschenfelder, Jean Palin actually saw it and read it somewhere, and she actually sent me a link, and we sent it to our attorneys of all the various cities. And there's a bunch in Florida that actually do that, which I didn't know. So that's progressing. I spoke to Ed yesterday. It was a very, 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 very rough week on Anna Maria Island. 46 years. At 11 in the morning, I was in Publix and had my hands up in the air with my little basket because there were so many people. I've never seen this many people. There were at least a couple thousand at that time. And then I went back at 9 because I knew Sunday it was closed. The same situation. I was shocked. And then I tried to get off the island and saw the line, and I decided to just stay on it Saturday. But, you know, as a former mayor, John, former mayor, we know what it's like out there. And I have brought this up over the past years, and I think it's probably time now, and I need to know your thoughts on this. You know that people that came out there were tourists. They were locals coming out to the beach during a holiday, or they were tourists. And again, I've never seen so many people in my life since I've been out there 46 years. But I do know it puts a stress on the cities on Monday. You know, you've got this week where you have spring break because Manatee County was out. Then you've got Easter. You had the 2,000 people on the beach. But then there's the stress on the cities. Every street on the island has got cars backed for people on the beach. Well, what most people don't realize, almost every street, has barrels, little barrels that say the city's name, and that's where you put your trash. It's been overflowing for years. So I talked to Ed, and I was wondering if now is the time for Ed to talk to staff and maybe the TDC look into providing funding to the cities for the 5 big holidays that we have during the year to contract. They can contract it out however they want to do it. To provide services during those weekends 2 or 3 times a day just to come and empty those cans. I mean, because what's happening is it's on the ground and it blows on the beach, and that's not what we want. So I was wondering if the commission had an issue with Ed moving forward to talk to staff, talk to the mayors. He's meeting with all of them Friday to see if there's any way. I think this is tourism related now, maintenance. I think it's gotten to that point now. This is not the island cities related. These are because tourists are there, and I'm just wondering what the thoughts were with the commission.
Commissioner DiSabatino.
No, we talked about that yesterday, and I'm in support of that. Yeah, I think the problem lies that each of the cities have different
Needs.
vendors. And
they have needs, and we would leave that from what Karen was thinking.
Right, so let them,
yeah,
the
right.
devil's in the details who they want to
Vendors
hire.
that pick up trash?
Yeah, they have different vendors, so I don't know if.
Different trash companies, but they could contract private enterprise to do it.
Right.
That would be up to
So
them.
I don't know
Yeah.
for this special thing that they wanted to consolidate to one or whatever, but let them work out the details.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chappie.
Totally agree. I'd like to see us look into this.
Fine.
It is a tremendous strain on the municipalities. These are the smaller cities. We are limited, and I hope we would look at this. You know, something else that we might want to look at is with regards to trolley service during the peak season and lessen the head times. I know the traffic's bumper to bumper, but you know, might by adding another trolley out there or two. I don't know. We do know one fact: the trolley system works. It gets 550,000 people on these trolleys, not in their cars. So, you know, if we could expand this possibly, or at least just start to look at it, I would also be in favor of something similar to that.
So do we need a formal action, Ed?
No.
No, okay. And then I only have to show 2.
Okay, I just wanted to comment on that
Oh.
because we're talking about the beach, and I 100% agree. Whatever we can do, and I know we talk about the limits on tourist tax, but anything we can do. I mean, I was out there quite a bit because I had friends that were down from Michigan staying out at the island. And honestly, until Saturday when I had to go out for the Turning Points event, was a judge from their walk a mile in their shoes for the sand contest.
They raised, what, $50,000?
Yes,
Yeah.
they had a matching. They raised 20,000, and then they had a match of 20,000. So they actually had raised a lot more than that. But they had someone who made that donation. They had over $50,000 that they raised. So, but the bridge was out.
Yeah.
The Longboat Bridge had there'd been an accident, and the bridge was out, so that just contributed to it. I violated my own rule of never driving to the beach and always riding a bike because I thought, oh, it's the middle of the day, but it was a bit of a nightmare. And I kept thinking, looking at the pathway next to where we were stuck in traffic, thinking, gosh, there's got to be alternate ways. And my friends used the monkey,
That's what I got a picture of.
whatever it is, what's it called, Carol? The monkey?
Wild monkey, I was going to show that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need like a monorail on there.
It was a golf cart. They used that quite a bit to get around because they found that was great to get around. But, you know, whatever we can do to help with trash pickup, you know, I'm certainly in agreement with it.
And just to add, can I add something
Sure.
to that? And just to add to that, Ed and I have had some discussions, and when it comes to our marketing of the island communities, or of Manatee County, per se, but to make the clear statements that, you know, fly into our community, ride a train into our community, or ride a bus here. You do not need a car if you're going to the islands.
Right.
You do not need a car. There is free trolley service out there. So I think we need to, I think we need to stress that even more so than we have. I don't think we really have in the past.
And to follow up on John, you can hear me on this, can't you?
Speak in the microphone, please.
This one or that one? Okay,
Yeah.
to follow up on John, we did years ago, us old-timers that have been in politics a while, we did have some kind of ancillary service that we were going to use from the airport to somewhere like near the Crosley, where we were going to have a ferry go across. And in the old days, that's why at Bradenton Beach had gotten the floating docks, because at one point, that's where we were thinking of connecting it. But again, we have the docks at Coquina, we could do it. But we have to really, truly, I think the islands and the county staff really need to start getting creative to figure out a way, because this is not going to slow down. We don't need to accept it, but we could make it better for the citizens and the visitors when they attend. But if you look down on the screen here, John and I were in the St. Patty's Day Parade, and I took a picture. I see these guys all year round. There's a little bus right behind them, and it's free enterprise. It's free, and I guess your family took it, Betsy, because they stay open till 3 in the morning. The transit stops at 10. These guys are there 7 days a week, and they go around, and you only give them tips. And us on the islands, we don't have problems with golf carts, so this kind of contraption, people love it. It just adds to the character and the funkiness of the island. So there hasn't been any issues on that. So that it was a creative way, but I agree, now's the time, Ed, to get the islands together to maybe look at this service that we were talking about that come from the airport. Because if we can get people from the airports, they don't need a car. So we have to figure that out, and maybe we can offer even something like this, a bus. You know, when we go on vacations, a hotel has their van there for you. Why can't Anna Maria have something like that? I mean, we need to think of something that we've never thought of before, because nobody needs a car out there, and you know that, Betsy.
Yeah, and absolutely seeing the number of people that were riding the trolley, that now you know those folks weren't in cars.
Right.
It would have just added that much more to it. So the trolley is successful and working, and we need to continue to figure that out, because it doesn't matter how many bridges you have, if you're in gridlock on the island, you know, it doesn't make sense to bring a lot more people over there on cars. So.
And just one more thing, I wanted to bring this up, thanks to Jeannie Holmes Bystrom. She's helped Charlie and us get this sign, and an organization, Conservancy, Southwest Conservancy, got like many signs for us to put on the piers. And these are showing the fishermen what to do to help save the pelicans. And if you look, there's a mobile tag there where you can do and show them how to get rid of get a hook out of a pelican. So we are trying to do things. We had a good weekend. And the only other thing I had on my agenda, I had a meeting at Manatee Hospital, and I met Dr. Peters and Dr. Miller. They were on this committee that I'm on, and they were vacillating, saying that a third of their patients in ICU absolutely have no funding. And their big thing is, and it's a federal law, Gary's not, oh, he is still here. You can't, physicians cannot write off bad debt. So they're taking care of these patients months. You know, when you have something in your business, you can write it off as a tax deduction. For some reason, it's a federal law that physicians cannot write off bad debt. And so all these patients that they're seeing, they don't ever get paid, and they can't even help them with taxes. So that's something that we need to look at. Gary's writing that down. And also, this district has the lowest reimbursement of from Medicare, thus insurance, in the entire United States. Wow. That's another thing. So, thank you. That's it.
Long time. Okay, I got some people on the board. Commissioner DiSabatino?
Oh, that's great. Hopefully Gary can work on that with the congressman. While Ed's meeting with the folks from the island, just actually to help promote more of the bicycle riding, to make sure that those bike lanes are clear of the sand. And I know it's an ever-ending story because it just keeps coming back and blowing on, but you know, it's dangerous when people are trying to ride their bikes and the bike lanes are real sandy.
Just to add to that, Mayor Sharon has been instrumental in working with the other island cities to get FDOT doing the sweeping of the bike lanes once a month now. So that is being done by FDOT.
Good. And the last thing is, I know Commissioner Smith's funeral is Saturday. I'll be out of town, so I won't be able to attend, so I won't be there.
Okay.
We'll be sending their condolences on a card, and, you know, I think some apologies are in order from the audience today for that, and that was so unfortunate, so.
Never.
Yeah, he works so hard for his district.
Commissioner Baugh?
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to the trolleys and so forth in the islands. It's ironic because Ed and I had a pretty in-depth conversation on this yesterday in my briefing, and you know, some of the things, because of the islands, I mean, water taxis, trolleys, golf carts. You know, if you go down to Key West, you got the Key West train. We just need to find an area where people that do drive here to Manatee County can park their vehicles. And, you know, I'm assuming, Ed, you're going to be keeping your eyes and ears open for something along that line.
Well, the MPO did do a park and ride study. I mean,
They
did a study at
Did
the
they
MPO.
find locations?
Yeah,
But
we did
of course,
years
they're
ago.
private properties. It wasn't that long ago because we had a presentation.
Well, we did one years
I've been
ago
on the
also.
6 months ago, 7
So I've
months
been
ago.
on the board. There was a presentation on it.
And we did one before then, years ago. We found a landing place, right, John?
I have copies of that if anybody would like it. I can
The
send you
old
its
one?
attachment, the park and ride study.
Oh,
Yeah, I
good,
would bet you could
good.
get it online at mympo.org, which is the website for the MPO.
Well, there we go. I didn't even know that. It was before I got on the MPO. So, great.
Before you took my seat.
Yeah, before I took your seat. He's never going to let me live that down.
He's a great alternate.
In dealing with the MPO, since we're on that subject, if I may.
Sure.
Right now, I am designated as the only alternative, and I respectfully request that I be taken off of that. And the reason I'm asking is I'm not allowed to really communicate with the island cities.
Oh,
Or even with Bradenton, with the city of Bradenton, with regards to stuff that might possibly come before the MPO. We've been very careful about this whole process, and I just being an alternate, still there's that little bit of possibility. So if we could make somebody else the alternate,
I did it 100 years ago.
all of them except myself, because as you all are aware, I have 5 of the municipalities in my district, and I love to have that opportunity to lobby for them and for their causes.
You need to be able to.
And I haven't been able to in the past. I love being on the MPO. I've learned a lot. There's a ton more to learn. It's so confusing.
Okay, well, we'll take that into consideration and come back with an appointment for someone.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Just wanted to add about the
Okay.
Oh, and you're talking about council governments?
Well, I
tonight?
still have my light on.
Yes, the only other thing that I wanted to add into my comments, I told you I did the Turning Points, which was really a wonderful event out at the beach, beautiful. Eventually, everybody got there, but had a great crowd out there for their walk, raised a significant amount of funds, and of course, that's an organization that is really helping us to solve our homeless issues, and I think we're the envy of other communities because we have that organization and the work they're doing, but like any organization that relies on grants, they are always challenged to come up with funding. But the community works well and has been working with them, so I would encourage all of you to, I know Carol's been there to volunteer, and maybe some of you other ones have been there, but to again become more familiar with what they do and what some of their needs are. And I had a meeting with some nice folks that I met at the MPO Long Range Transportation Plan update. They were there talking about Rye Road. They live in Mill Creek, phase 7, I guess it is. It is right along the road there. Maybe it's, no, they live in 6 and 7 is right next to them. And had some great discussions about things that are happening on Rye Road and where we're at. They were adamant in their opposition to a roundabout.
There it comes up again.
I think some of you
April
saw
Fools.
the April Fool's story in the East County Observer, and explained to them that that's something that DOT is mandated to look at, but told them to continue to, bring their voices forward in the process about their concerns, and told them that we are, working hopefully very closely with folks in the area to look at getting an intersection that at this time would not include a roundabout, but of course we have to work with DOT. So they're very interested in looking at intersection improvements at Rye and 64 because, there's issues there. We also talked about the speed limit, and I brought that up before, that they wanted the speed limit reduced on Rye, which is, 55 is a little bit fast for an area that has schools and all the development coming forward. And staff has promised that they're looking at that and will bring that forward. So I just wanted to report that because I can't really tell you. And speaking with folks that are in your district.
Actually, it's not my district.
Larry's district,
Larry,
actually.
but
Yeah.
I've heard from them as well.
Yeah.
So.
So just wanted to let you know. Larry had to leave because he had Edie's had a doctor's appointment that he wanted to take care of. So at this time,
Council of Governments is
I have some,
today.
I have
okay,
commission comment real quick.
okay,
With dealing with a couple things we've been talking about, to drive it home a little bit further. The traffic, when Braden Beach, when we set up our community redevelopment district in the commercial area, a main part of the focus was about transportation and was about not creating parking spaces in that core area. People can walk, we have the free trolley, and again, it has been successful. People complained, well, you're not creating enough parking spaces with the development, with what's going on Bridge Street. And we told them if we have a parking problem in 10, 15 years, then we've been successful with what we're doing in our community redevelopment area for Bradenton Beach. And what I have noticed in the last couple years, people are parking at Cortez Beach, they are parking at Coquina Beach, and they are getting on the trolley, and they are walking to those areas to get back. The entrepreneurs have set up with the golf carts. That has taken a lot of the some stress off. Not a lot, because there's a lot of people out there. The floating dock, when we went after the grant opportunity to put a floating dock in there, it was to be a point of entry onto the island with a water taxi, and hopefully, so the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure is already there for a lot of things to happen on the island as a community, the whole island as a community. So some type of floating dock for water taxi service set up possibly in Holmes Beach in the middle of the island and on the north end in the city of Anna Maria. I think there's opportunity there to cash in on what we already have here in Manatee County on Anna Maria Island to help them.
Is that also for dinghies?
It's for anybody who wants to park there. It was to draw people in on their boats, not in their cars, and then they could go on the trolley or eat on Bridge Street. It's perfect. The whole island is perfect for that type of setup with the floating dock, with the boats, and with just using the trolley system. The other point I wanted to bring forward, and I appreciate all the discussion because it reminded me of a couple of little things I needed to make a point on or ask them questions. I've had a little discussion with Roxanne Lake recently, last week. I'm still waiting for a phone call back from her to explain. This is a good thing. Currently, FDOT is doing an initiative called the Concept of Operations Study. This Concept of Operations Study is to determine the project. This was at the intersection of Gulf Drive and Cortez Road. This is to determine the project and the equipment that's going to be needed for the full integration of that intersection into the regional traffic management center. So, I would like staff to, if we could, look a little bit further into this, and possibly, is this an opportunity to maybe, before this study is to be completed, to talk to them about not just this intersection. That's what I was hoping Roxanne would come back and say, we're not just talking about the intersection, because it seems kind of silly and a waste just to talk about that one intersection when we really need to talk about Gulf Drive and Cortez Road, linking in the bridge openings, 119th Street, Palmasola Boulevard, and 75th Street on the Cortez side, and also the other lights in the village of Holmes Beach, the 3 lights there, 4 lights there, along with the bridge, and getting Manatee, so that all this stuff is synced. We're doing a pilot program on University right now with the real-time data that's coming in there, so that we can make adjustments. There's some moving parts going on right now. We need to make sure we keep our eye on the ultimate goal, which is the flow of traffic in our communities. There's only so much room to build highways and bridges and all that other stuff. So let's look at all these opportunities that we have right now. And I think if we can expand this concept of operations study, it could be a very useful tool for Manatee County. And just to add, once this concept is complete, I was told it's going to take the island cities. Will have to submit a request to the MPO for the project to get on the list. And I'm not so sure. It's not just the cities. It is a true partnership with the counties, county of Manatee and the cities, to submit this and to follow this and to work together on this. Thank you.
Well, I think we probably need to learn a little bit more about it, because the concept, what's it called? Concept of Operations Study?
Concept of Operations Study. I was on there with you. I don't think you remember. I don't remember that coming up. So, well, opportunity. Let's open the door.
I think to the Central Manatee Network Analysis Study and how that got put together because of 2 different projects that were in the Long Range Transportation Plan, right. And what that study is looking at makes me think it sounds somewhat like that. But perhaps staff could come back and explain to us what that is, if it's. Or have DOT scheduled to come back and talk about that.
And at the city's meeting tonight, the COG meeting tonight, the Regional Barrier Island to Mainland Mobility Analysis, that email that was requested from Mr. Bullock and actually the mayor of Longboat Key. So it's going to be interesting to hear what they have to say.
Okay. And then you reminded me, and I'll just state real briefly that I am working with the Chamber Transportation Group on the Central Manatee Network Analysis. We had a meeting on Friday with that group. They asked me if I would join in with that, and I said sure, because I hadn't heard much of what's going on there. And it's an effort to look at how to relieve some of the gridlock that we have in the downtown area. We know we have the gridlock with the bridge system, and you have the proposed improvements of 9th, where there's a turn lane going on to 3rd, and there's the question about how that will be accomplished. And I did speak with the county administrator about some concerns about how that's going to be accomplished with narrowing down the lanes down to 10 feet, which sounds like it'll be great. The only issue is if you have a truck and a bus pass, you're going to clip the bus mirror. So there's a question about coming along where the county owns the property, where the bank, what's that building called? Bank of First Union building, is that what it is?
First Union.
And the property appraiser building, as well as the museum, whether or not there's any opportunity for right-of-way. So that's being looked at as well to solve that issue of creating a turn lane. So staff is looking into that.
Regarding that?
Yes, ma'am.
My cardiologist office manager brought that very issue up to me because she lives in Ellington, and she sent me a drawing, and I sent it to the mayor and Palmetto and everybody else. And I guess that design is, actually, they're looking at that area. She was thinking of widening it, making it 2 turn lanes to the right, but you'd have to use some of that property at the First Union. And I guess from what Claude told me and responded, that's actually a plan they're looking at, so I just forwarded it to her.
The plan today does not require any additional right-of-way, because the idea is to eliminate the median to be able to accommodate that, because
There you go,
even
that's
though
your
we
third
might
lane.
be able to provide additional right-of-way, the museum site, given their expansion opportunities, is very, very, very limited, is what we've been told. So that is being looked at, but right now, and this project is going forward in design. Remember, we all got the memorandum from L.T. Nandom, is that his name? The guy?
Yes. LT, yeah.
Remember, we all got the memorandum from
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nandom, from DOT about what the status of that is and the timing, because that issue is, that's more of a year-round issue, but it's an issue that we're dealing with. So I just want to let you know that I am looking at, there's some innovative ideas that have come up about how to look at rerouting, perhaps having a alternate pathway on 8th, from 9th, and then jogging over to 8th, which might be a alternate parallel route, if you will, and that's something that some folks that are on this committee, Chamber Committee, have come forward, and I said, yeah, the city, I mean, this is all through the city. If the city's in favor of it and looks like they can come up with the right-of-way and need a plan, let's see how this moves forward. But there's been a map delivered to our staff that shows this alternate alignment, also DOT, so it's something that is being promoted.
That was originally submitted about 4 years ago?
Yes,
Rick Foley
came
was
up,
part of that?
yeah, it is. It's Foley Bryan has taken the lead on that with this alternate alignment, but at the meeting, Claude Tankersley was there, and Foley Bryant, and Michael Gallant now is taking over for Neil, but they all were there, and so I basically just said, since this is all within the city, if the city thinks that there's ways to come up with the right-of-way and need to be able to look at that again in the transportation plan as an alternate and see how that would work out. So they're working with DOT on it.
Great.
Okay, staff, other comments?
Nothing here.
County Attorney?
Nothing.
Okay, we do have a COG meeting this afternoon at 4? 4?
Thank you.
4 o'clock, so we will see anyone who would like to attend that meeting is at the
Convention Center?
Convention Center at 4 o'clock, and that's a Council of Government meeting. So without any further ado, we are adjourned.